Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving into the absolute straight truth about the single biggest deferred maintenance item on your home, your roof. It's basically the crown of your house, right? Your primary shield against the elements. But according to the data, it's the one thing we all try to ignore until water literally starts dripping onto the dining room table. By the end of our time together today, we're going to uncover exactly how to plan, price, and protect your home without getting taken advantage of.
We've got a lot of ground to cover to protect your wallet today. Here's our roadmap. We'll tackle the great insurance myth, look at the real costs by the numbers, go over 3 contractor vetting questions, check out what changed in 2026, and finally, look at your home's active defense system. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The great insurance myth. Let's address the absolute elephant in the room that causes so much financial panic and confusion for homeowners every single day.
You know the one. Will my insurance cover it? It's the universal question every homeowner asks the second they spot a watermark on the ceiling. And, well, the hard truth we need to establish right out of the gate is that the short answer is almost always no. I know, that hurts to hear. But relying on an insurance policy as a roof savings account, that is literally the fastest way to get yourself into some serious financial trouble.
The contrast here is pretty stark. Your homeowner's insurance is designed for sudden, catastrophic events, what adjusters literally call acts of God. We're talking massive hailstorms, hurricane winds, or, a giant oak tree crashing into your living room. It is absolutely not designed to cover a 25-year-old asphalt roof that's just shedding granules and cracking after a quarter century of baking in the sun. That predictable degradation, that everyday wear and tear, that is 100% your maintenance responsibility. It's a major capital expense, exactly like replacing a worn-out furnace. Now, what's really interesting is that even if a bad storm does roll through, insurance adjusters are strictly looking for what they call functional damage. This means damage that actually compromises the roof's ability to shed water. Got a few minor cosmetic dents on the metal roof from some pea-sized hail? Yeah, that might not be covered at all. Plus, policies are getting remarkably stricter. In states that see a lot of storms, insurers are outright refusing to cover roofs over 15 or 20 years old for a full replacement. Instead, they're only offering the depreciated actual cash value.
All right, Section 2, real costs by the numbers. If insurance isn't footing the bill, exactly how big of a check are we talking about right now in 2026?
$12,500. That is the U.S. median cost this year for a standard asphalt roof replacement on a typical 2,000 square foot home. But remember, your final contract price is basically a formula. It's materials plus labor plus the complexity of your roof line. And labor? Labor is the massive variable here. Data shows that certified roofers in, say, Los Angeles County command a massive premium compared to a crew in a rural Midwestern town. That really drives that final number.
And of course, your choice of material radically scales the price. A basic 3-tab asphalt shingle, so your entry-level 20-year roof, runs around $8,500 to $13,000. Step up to the architectural asphalt shingle, which is kind of the 30-year standard for most of the country, and you're looking at $12,000 to $19,000. But if you want a 50-plus-year lifestyle and decide to go with standing seam metal, whoa, you're jumping to $25,000 to $40,000. You're definitely paying up front for that longevity.
But please, whatever you do, don't just focus on that top layer. The fundamental truth in roofing is that the underlayment is the real roof. The shingles, they're really just the armor protecting the actual hero. The weather barrier and the solid wood decking underneath, that is what actually keeps your living room dry. So if you get a wildly cheap quote, it's usually because some contractor is skimping on what's underneath. And a cheap job that ignores that weather barrier is honestly a complete and total waste of your hard-earned money.
Something else to keep in mind, the National Association of Home Builders has a fantastic rule of thumb. You absolutely need to keep a 15% contingency fund, especially for homes over 30 years old. Why? Well, because tearing off old shingles frequently uncovers rotten, spongy decking hidden underneath. Trust me, you do not want to get a frantic phone call from your roofer at noon saying they need another $2,000 to fix the wood framing, only to realize you have zero buffer in your bank account.
Moving right along to Section 3, 3 contractor vetting questions. Let's switch gears and arm you with the exact questions you need to be asking during the bidding process.
Question number 1. How will you assess my roof decking? Listen, nailing brand new, highly expensive shingles into soft, rotten wood is a guaranteed failure. It completely compromises the load path. You need to know exactly how they plan to handle your home's structural foundation before you sign on the dotted line.
A truly reputable contractor won't just guess here.
They'll explicitly tell you that they include up to 3 sheets of decking replacement as a standard part of their initial bid. And more importantly, they'll promise that if they find extensive rot during the tear-off, they will physically stop working, show you the damage, and get an approved change order from you before proceeding. So no nasty surprises.
Okay, question number 2. What is your detailed plan for flashing, valleys, and ventilation? Here's a little pro tip for you. Roofs rarely just start leaking smack in the middle of a perfectly flat shingle. Nah, leaks happen at the penetrations. We're talking chimneys, skylights, vents, and those valleys where different roof planes actually meet. Asking this question forces the contractor to explain their actual craftsmanship.
When you ask them this, there are exact buzzwords you want to be listening for. Specifically, listen for the promise of ice and water shield being used in all the valleys. Listen for new step flashing around the chimney. And absolutely most importantly, listen for them talking about calculating your attic's balanced intake and exhaust ventilation. Because trapped heat in an attic, that literally cooks your shingles from the inside out and drastically accelerates roof failure.
And finally, question number 3. Honestly, this might genuinely be the most critical question of the whole bunch. Who is pulling the permit and managing inspections? Look, a full roof replacement is not just some simple cosmetic swap. It is major structural work, and it requires official oversight.
A true professional is going to handle all the permits and city building inspections entirely on their own. They pull the permit, they post the card, they schedule the inspector, the whole shebang. If a contractor asks you, the homeowner, to pull the permit as an owner-builder just to save a few bucks, run. Run the other way. Unpermitted roof work can cause absolute nightmares during buyer inspections when it's finally time to sell your home.
All right, Section 4, what changed in 2026? Let's step back for a second and look at the broader economic and regulatory environment that's shifting the roofing landscape this year.
There's actually a really fascinating financial push and pull happening right now. Yes, higher interest rates are making financing through a home equity line of credit a lot more expensive, which means saving cash in advance is super vital. But on the flip side, you can leverage the federal energy-efficient home improvement credit under the Inflation Reduction Act to help offset those costs. You can actually claim a tax credit for 30% of the cost, up to $1,200 if you use qualifying Energy Star products. Also, while standard asphalt prices have pretty much stabilized, if you're wanting specialty metal or imported tile, you still need to plan months in advance. Those lead times are no joke.
And building codes? They are getting significantly stricter based on exactly where you live. For example, a home in the Hollywood Hills has vastly different requirements than a low-risk suburban house in Ohio. In hail-prone regions, impact-resistant shingles are pretty much becoming mandatory. High-wind coastal zones now require enhanced nailing patterns to keep roofs actually attached during hurricanes. And out in wildfire-prone states like California, you're looking at strict Class A fire-rated systems and specialized attic venting specifically designed to block flying embers. So your contractor absolutely must know your local 2026 codes intimately.
Which brings us to Section 5, your home's active defense system. Let's dive into this final section to completely reframe how we view this massive financial undertaking.
Look, yes, a new roof is undeniably expensive, but the data shows you can actually expect to recoup around 60 to 70% of that total project cost when you eventually sell your home. Why? Because a brand new roof offers massive peace of mind to potential buyers. It removes this huge looming liability from their home buying equation, and that means your home spends way less time on the market and commands a much stronger offer.
And this brings us to the ultimate takeaway from our sources today, the true cost of waiting. Deferring a $15,000 capital investment today can, and very often does, double your costs practically overnight. Once a failed roof actually lets water inside the house, you aren't just buying shingles anymore. No, you're paying for mold mediation, replacing soggy attic insulation, tearing out ruined drywall, and repairing rotting structural framing. It literally turns a planned project into a $30,000 emergency disaster.
So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Are you currently risking a $30,000 disaster by treating your roof as a passive expense instead of your home's active defense system? Seriously, do not wait for that watermark to appear on your ceiling. Grab a ladder this weekend, check your gutters for granules, take a good hard look at the condition of your shingles, and ask yourself, is waiting one more year truly worth risking the structural integrity of everything underneath it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy inspecting!